All right, we are live for another episode of Beyond the CMS, episode 34. Got a great special guest today. The whole idea around this podcast was to mirror the spirit of the car guys. And that was the show. I don't know if you folks know that, but you call in, ask questions about fixing up your car. And these guys would do their best to come up with the answers. And here we are today talking about all things related to content management platforms. If you're a CMO or a digital marketing leader, this is your moment to ask us anything, essentially. And we're super stoked today. We've got special guest Michael Sonier from ButterCMS, who is going to join us for the next half an hour. And we're going to just talk about trends and what's going on in the world of CMSs. But Michael, thanks a lot for making time in your afternoon. I know we're on a really good baseball chat there, and this is kind of the Blue Jays edition today. But let's focus on you. And do you want to just introduce yourself and say hello?
Yeah, sure. Great to be here, Chris. Yeah, congrats to the Blue Jays. We're all watching. We're watching the weekend, but we don't want to digress into baseball too much because that'd be a very easy thing to do. So yeah, Michael Sonier. I've been in the content management technology space for upwards of 15 plus years, mostly around the commerce world. So commerce platforms. And trying to give our retailers, merchants, customers the control flexibility of their content. I would say, commerce platforms are really good at a lot of things. They were, and maybe still to this day, not the best at content management. So I've always worked with customers trying to get more control and flexibility of their website, whether it be their marketing website or their commerce website, and then joined Butter almost a year and a half ago, and was excited to join Butter because I think right in that market that we're going to talk about, we won't use the H word, the headless world, the word that we'll talk about, but it's all about giving those CMOs control, power, flexibility, autonomy to move fast in this world of AI that we'll talk about.
Awesome. Why butter? Where'd the name come from?
Butter? Well, who doesn't like butter, right? I guess that, we love our brand, but, why butter is in this world of trying to, there's a lot of great solutions out there. There's a lot of CMS options out there, all of which are powerful and can do a lot of great things. Where we tend to get our highest marks with our customers and our prospects is we use the word approachable, easy to use. Those marketing folks need to feel comfortable with the tool set. They need to, the learning curve needs to be short. The ramp time and migration. We don't think of this as a big IT project, right? It shouldn't be. We want to get you managing your content quickly. And we want you to get trained up and enabled and using a tool that you feel comfortable with. Because otherwise it defeats the purpose, right? We want the marketing team, the marketing ops, the CMO to have a tool that they are very comfortable, it's intuitive, but yet brings the right functionality for them. So again, there's a lot of solutions out there in the space. It's been but the highest marks we get are around ease of use and also being a really good partner. That's something I'm super proud of, just as a company, that agency partners, customers, when they start onboarding with Butter, we get high marks in terms of our responsiveness, and we are a true partner as you try and enter this journey of modern CMSs.
Awesome. Yeah. And I wanted to get into that. Typically, we have two audiences for this show, kind of now and later when we kind of repost this as a podcast on YouTube. And that's kind of CMOs or digital decision makers that are kind of looking to modernize the stack, learn a little bit more about more contemporary web technology, but also partners and agencies are looking at this content afterwards. And we've seen quite a shift in how evolved the management of the relationship is between partners and platforms. And I'm representing a digital agency myself, and it's just so important to stay top of mind. I don't know if you're open to it. Before we get into the tool itself, do you want to talk a little bit about your partnerships?
Yeah, honestly, it's something that it's a really big focus for me and our next phase of growth for Butter. We've had a great foundation, and we've been in the market for almost 8 years, or maybe even over 8 years. We consider ourselves one of the first movers in this modern CMS world, but we kind of went it alone. And as we know the next phase of our growth, and we are anxiously and actively building those partnerships with those agencies that are really the ones that are going to bring the content management solution. They're going to bring the digital transformation to life, right? We're a SaaS product, but it's really about the solution that our partner can bring to light for our partners. So you're going to hear us expanding and bringing more partners into our marketing efforts. We'd love to work more tightly with Dotfusion as well. So
Awesome.
I'm a believer in ecosystem-led growth. My time previously was at a company called Magento, which was an open source solution. Everything we did was around our partners, our agencies, our system integrators. We grew through and with that ecosystem, and that was something that was amazing to see the flywheel. I want to bring kind of that mentality to Butter.
Super cool. And I had a hunch maybe you wanted to say it, but do you want? I'm creating an archive of what does headless mean? And I know Butter is a headless CMS, and that's something that we talk about from an industry perspective. But as a marketer and someone who has to make these larger digital decisions, and kind of you've got monolithic and headless, and maybe I'll turn that over to you if you want to kind of describe the benefits of the headless stack.
Yeah, I mean, you and I had exchanged notes. I think if we had a nickel for every time we had to dial back the word headless for a marketing person, we might have a few dollars in our pocket. I try not to use the word headless, because the reality is headless is an architecture, and I think for a marketing team, the architecture is really not important. What's important is the value that a modern CMS approach brings to that marketing team. And what is that? I think of it as there's kind of 5 jobs to be done a marketing team has to do, and I think these jobs to be done are still relevant in the world of AI. They probably become more relevant. They become different, but they're still the things, right? You need to move fast. You need to lower the barrier of development involvement to update content on your website. There's still plenty of people out there that are involving developers for everyday website changes. There's still a lot of people out there that are working on let's say a homegrown or hard-coded website. A modern approach to CMS is giving the marketer autonomy, control to move fast, reducing the barrier, reducing the dependency on developers. So that's number one. And obviously setting you up to move faster in this world of AI, right? Are you AI ready with all the content proliferation that is happening, right? That's step 2. I mean, we're starting to see now also that with AI tools, the involvement of developers is decreasing even further. You may used to need to call a developer to create a new data schema. You may need to bring them in at some points. Now that barrier to developer involvement is going down even further and further. So a modern headless CMS, I said headless, but is kind of the foundation to get you AI ready to move fast, is how I think about it. Also, we talk about omni-channel. Another thing about delivering content across channels is a key thing around a modern CMS, and that's web, mobile, multi-locale, right? Like we've been doing translation for our customers. Multi-locale sites is a critical use case for having a modern headless CMS, and we have translation tools that are AI enabled. So we're already bringing AI tools to our customers now, and that's going to proliferate. But as we talk about channels, I think the next channel we're all going to be talking about is like the non-human channels of agents and large language models. Like, are we ready for those channels? Those channels are consuming this content. and we can get into the topic of AEO or SEO is another big driver. But I think the whole world of channel and having an ability to serve up content to multiple channels is even more critical now than ever. And that's a huge value proposition of a modern CMS.
Yeah, totally with you. And from the agency perspective, we kind of see the productization of AI in the content platforms really serving the marketers and the kind of content creation teams, but also the dev teams. And are you building MCP servers? Are there API connections through like N8N backbones? We're doing a lot of work with content platforms strictly through N8N. We're not even having devs in there, and there's all this new stuff going on. Can you tell me a little bit about, how are you serving the mindset of a marketing person who maybe isn't that technical, that should have you on their consideration set when they're looking for a new CMS? Like, how do you kind of speak to their mindset, and in kind of more plain language, how do you kind of promote Butter to them as a great solution?
Yeah, it goes back to that. To use your car analogy, we want to present Butter to the users as if, can you see yourself in the driver's seat of this product, and do you feel comfortable getting behind the wheel and using Butter on a day-to-day basis? It has to be it has to be intuitive. It has to make you feel comfortable that you can manage content. You're right. The developer is the enabler to get the CMS in a great place, but then we really want to make sure the marketing team has the non-technical tools available to manage content, optimize content, scale content across channels. The whole goal is that it's a platform and a technical solution that feels very comfortable to a non-technical audience that just wants to create good content, right, at scale.
Yeah, I love the idea of approachability. When you look at Sitecore, AEM, and these systems, like they're not particularly approachable. You can set them up, but it takes a little while, and I think speed to market's important as well.
Right.
You were touching on AI a little bit, and that starts to relate to personalization. That always comes up in a conversation that we have with customers. You want to just share your thoughts on personalization and where we're at these days and where we're going?
Yeah, I think personalization is one of those top 5 jobs to be done by the marketing team. I think personalization is a term that's been used for 15, 20 years. I remember, it was machine learning. Before AI, it was personalization, machine learning tools. And now with the more powerful tools that we have of AI, personalization is at the forefront. I think the average consumer or visitor to the website actually expects now to have a personalized experience. Probably years ago might creep people out. They expect to have a very tailored experience. You almost get dinged if it's generic. So the demand to deliver that personalized one-to-one experience is super high, and the power to do so has never been more available with the power of AI. I still think the solutions to get to personalization are varied, right? Like, we've got personalization engines out there. We've got CDP based solutions. You've got CRM based solutions. Like the solution to personalization, I still think is not one size fits all. So our mentality is, to your point, is a robust integration framework that can serve the needs to how each individual customer wants to solve the personalization thing. I don't think there's one size fits all. I think everybody's trying to deliver it in their own way, and we want to be there to solve it. Whether you've got a personalization engine, a lot of people in this space have acquired these things, right? Whether it's a personalization, a CDP, we don't want to lock people into one approach. I'd say that, but we want to be there for them to solve that as they need to. It's part of their bigger MarTech stack solution, really.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And what we found is there's enthusiasm around personalization up front, but then when you look at all of the content variants and asset variants, like, you're right, you need a personalization manager to kind of get the results from it, right?
Yeah, like it does still come down to, that's one of the biggest challenges is do you have the variants? Do you have the repository of all the content you need to actually execute on the concept. We're in this content space, and I still think content is king, and having those variants of content is still king to achieve personalization. Spot on.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And you spoke a little bit about kind of an integration ecosystem. How does Butter work with integrations? Do you have a marketplace? Are you just kind of exposing your APIs and you kind of compose things how you like?
Yeah, that's the next vision. Our agency solution partners, and we are working pretty aggressively on the foundation of this marketplace that is in this new world that you just mentioned. Some names like the N8N and the MCP. These are the next evolution that's going to speed up and simplify the concept of marketplaces, right? And we see that, and we're looking to accelerate and simplify these integrations and bring as no code, low code kind of concept, because I think of the CMS as a hub inside of this MarTech tool set, right? And integrations is one of the key value propositions of Headless, because one thing we say about Headless is if we don't use the word headless, which is an architecture, we say API first, right? So now in the world of AI and MCPs, is your API set MCP ready, N8N ready, right? Like we're getting our APIs ready to be to proliferate the AI workflow integrations that are right at our fingertips right now. It's happening like daily. I got a phone call this, just before this to talk about our roadmap there. So that's exciting times. I think the barrier to simplify and streamline the workflow is going down so fast.
Yeah, totally with you. Just to share some thoughts and challenges that we have as an agency. So we're proposing API first architecture, and then what seems to catch the financial team off guard when you start composing systems together, and they're looking at us as the agency to be, forthright and fully disclosed when we're putting together estimates and things, and scope is a whole issue in and of itself for us. We're recommending, we're going to use Algolia for search and Cloudinary for asset management. And they're like, oh, well, you didn't tell us this. Why doesn't it just do everything? So we're kind of talking about the benefits of the composability of stuff. What is your approach to kind of solving that total cost of ownership question?
It's a great question, because if we could sit here and talk about all the benefits and value props of this composable approach, the obvious challenge is, well, then it increases total cost of ownership. It includes not only cost but complexity to maintain. So, my mentality is our mentality is a couple-fold. One is, we try and be a very cost-effective, simple solution that doesn't provide sticker shock. But I think whenever you get into this, I think the debate of best in breed versus all in one is not a new debate. We're always going to have that. I used to work on order management systems. It's like, not everybody needs an order management system, but if you need one, you need one, and the ROI is there, right? If you need robust search, you need it, and the ROI is there. Like, if you want to look at composability and look at all the line item price tags, that's one way to do it. But you don't need every composable piece of the architecture. What do you need? We say in a CMS, listen, if you're not updating content more than X times a month, then stick with what you got, right? Like, so you got to make smart decision, right? Like, if you're updating content more than once a month, the ROI, particularly when you're talking about moving faster, removing developers, the ROI becomes a pretty clear path. But if you look at composability in general and you look at the sticker price, it can get a little runaway, but it shouldn't. I don't think composability necessarily means higher cost, higher complexity. I think it means you pick the right things you need for the problems you're trying to solve. And we also see, just to tag on to that, is this notion of forklifting platforms is gone, right? Like it's if you need a CMS in certain portions of your site or for certain pages, you do it there, right? You don't. You got to be smart on where you deploy these composable solutions, and I think when you take that approach, the ROI becomes pretty evident, and the flexibility it provides you outweighs kind of the perception that all of a sudden complexity is going to strangle you.
Yeah, and somewhat related from a decision maker perspective. What are the signals for that person or that team to kind of put you on the consideration list? What's kind of going on in their world, and when do you kind of become really appealing?
Even though we're kind of in this the space is maturing pretty rapidly. I think there's still some segment of the market that feels like what they're doing today, there's no better path, right? You're still talking to customers like, well, wait a minute. Yeah, I talked to develop. What's your content workflow? Well, I do this, and then I call my developer, and then they make this change, right? And it's like there's a little bit of this education of like the world could be better, right? So there is a little bit of that. And that's a big part of the story. And then the other story is the ones that kind of are understanding of this new world is it's that value versus complexity. I mean, you mentioned the AEM world. I worked for Magento. We were acquired by Adobe, right? Like AEM is a fantastic tool, but it's a sledgehammer, right? Like it's just what are you trying to solve? Like we just literally, let's start talking about what is your workflow? What portions of your site or all of your site would you like to have more control? And we try and enter at that level. Like, let's just break it down and crawl, walk, run, if you will. Like where do you need to, you could deploy Butter and we could just run your blogs for a while. And then what often happens in our case is they get used to using Butter to just manage content heavy sites like blogs. And next thing you know, you start to see the value light bulb go off, and we start to manage more portions of the site. That's how we tend to educate folks on what the value is of ButterCMS.
Is there a particular industry that you have a strength in particular, or are you happy to share a case study or success story?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think our install base is pretty consistent where the market is, right? I'd say about a third of our customers are in a e-commerce business, and the other 2/3 are running marketing sites. A lot of folks are doing omni-channel with us, running mobile, either native mobile apps or mobile responsive sites. So it's a diverse set of use cases. I think we ebb and flow as the nature of the internet. Like all of a sudden, we're seeing growth in financial services or crypto or blockchain, right? So these are emerging businesses that are kind of digitally native that are probably going straight from, there's the legacy businesses that are moving off of a homegrown CMS and making the plunge, and we see those in the healthcare space or things like that. And then we see the digitally native folks that are probably going to their first website, and their first website is going to be this modern architecture. So, if you ask me today, financial services is hot, and you can see some of our case studies on our site, but I think it's very much dependent on what the internet's doing that day.
Yeah, I'm with you too. And we get that question, like, what industry are you expert at? And it's like, well, anyone should be considering a migration to kind of composable architecture. It doesn't really matter who. You mentioned just in the last bit of the chat there about workflows, and that's something that's important for our marketing folks that have, each content team is a little bit different. Sometimes there's legal, language translation, different countries have different compliance. How does Butter kind of fit into the workflow solution?
Yeah, I think that's yet again one of those like key jobs to be done that we solve, and that I think a robust CMS needs to solve is understanding the content creation, approval, publish workflow, right? Like, where does that content start? How does it enter into Butter? What happens to that content? So workflows in terms of permissions to publish, commenting, almost like a Google Doc experience, right? Like, tweaking content, tracking history, because we know content can be created outside of Butter, but once it gets into Butter, we want to have an audit trail, right? We want to make sure we know what happened to that content. We can comment, tag people, put a note in Slack to say, hey, check this out. We want to have permissioning as to, who can publish. So fairly robust roles permissioning workflows, because right, in every vertical, the ability to publish and the ability to review, the bar can change pretty significantly. So we want to be there for that.
Awesome. And for folks that are listening in now or later, and thanks to folks who are making time during their lunch hour in the Eastern time zone, thanks for joining in. Feel free to ask us anything. How does a person kind of onboard with you? Do you have a demo? How do they go about getting a sense of, actually, it's a great idea. You should join us for a demo day sometime, and we can just really show off the product, because that's something that's just relatively new. It used to be, we're recommending a platform, but no one could see it till it was, till it was done. But how does someone kind of move into the selection process with you?
Yeah, so we, like many in the space, kind of have two motions to engage with Butter. You can come to our site and sign up to a trial, and we have what we call self-service plans. You can use Butter in a free plan, or you could evolve to a plan that makes sense for you. But some folks do that, and we're all about making sure that experience is intuitive, that you can see value in, it's time to first value. When you get into Butter, we want that time to first value. We talk about aha moments. We want those aha moments to be very soon in the journey of your trial or evaluation. But you can also call us, and we will schedule a quick demo. We will evaluate your needs. I think, again, to that kind of good partner perspective, we get really high marks on the kind of the sales process. We will build out a proof of concept with you. We will customize our demo that can really bring, you look at a website, it's like, I really have to relate to my website, my content, my pages. So we try and make it feel like, all right, what would this really feel like for me? And then we also have a really great team of onboarding and training and enablement that, we're gonna get you enabled and trained on the product pretty quickly. So you can do it yourself. Call us. We like to take a white glove approach on looking at your needs and building out a proof of concept to help you incrementally get there. Again, we always say this is not going to be an IT project. This is not going to be you replacing your CRM, right? This should be, we can get you to value much faster than you think you can. And we like to surprise and delight on that kind of promise.
Amazing. And man, time goes by pretty quickly once we get rolling here. Two questions, kind of take it in any order you want. Do you want to talk a little bit about your roadmap, and or what do you see is the future of a CMS?
I think, let's take that second one. Like, I think the CMS content is still going to be king. Like, I'm reading articles about AEO, GEO, all the best practices to serve up content to those large language models. There's still best practices of content. Your content, you have to be authority. You have to have fresh content. Like, these are still things that matter, right? So what a CMS, what we want to be is the content repository, but enables you to bridge this gap that is the world that AI is going to bring us to, right? That's content creation. That's integrations. You mentioned MCP servers. Like, we want our CMS to be the beachhead for you to take the next step to leverage AI in all the ways that it can be to proliferate your content and get it into the hands of the world, now that AI is one of the people that's evaluating your content. So that's the short answer.
Awesome, awesome. And we always have a little bit of extra time, even though we're over. And just for a snippet for later, you got to tell me more about the bats behind you. And I do want you to speak about your side hustle, because I think it's really relevant to what's going on in the baseball world.
Well, I mean, you and I'll try and keep it brief. We met earlier this morning. You had your hat on, and I'm like, I'm a baseball guy, so I enjoy disruptive technologies. I think Butter is disrupting the CMS world in our view of being simple and easy to use. And I have a little side hustle where we're disrupting the baseball bat market, or have a little vision to disrupt the baseball bat market with a new kind of baseball bat that brings all the tradition of wood and the performance of those metal bats. So that's the story there. But I love disruptive technologies, and I spend my time focusing on those things. And Butter's where I spend most of my time, on disruptive technologies.
That's awesome, man. Well, let's try and get one of those in Vladdy's hands. And well, hey, it's been great chatting with you, and I really appreciate your time and telling us a little bit more about Butter. And looking forward to sharing this to the world as artifacts afterwards. And if there's anything else you want to say, please do.
No, go Jays, go Blue Jays.
Awesome. Okay, well, thanks a lot. I'm going to hit the end streaming button, and just want to say thanks to everyone who's taken a moment out of their time to join us today. Thanks, Mike. I really appreciate it. I'm Chris Bryce with Dotfusion Digital, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks for our next episode. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks.